guys, welcome back to my channel. It is time for episode 2 of this bathroom makeover. If you missed part 1, we did discuss all of the design plans and all of the different projects we're going to be doing for this renovation. So if you want to check that out and see all the things that we discussed, I'll leave it linked in the description box down below. But for this episode, we're actually going to be starting on this process. We're going to be treating our cabinets as well as painting the room and getting it all set up for the pretty stage, which is going to be next episode. We'll be doing wallpaper and doing all the styling, new mirrors, things like that. For today, we are actually going to start with the cabinets. If you guys watched that first video, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do to treat these cabinets. You guys gave me a bunch of helpful suggestions, so today we're going to start with the easiest one because we have these on hand. We're going to be using some warm water as well as some baking soda, letting it sit in the sun and see if we can get some of the stain to come off. If you missed that first episode, what we're doing is we're kind of trying to match the cabinet stain to the chair rail stain. So they are a little bit different, but they sort of have the same undertones. So we're going to start out with that and see how it goes. You ready? Cross your fingers that this works. Things have definitely changed a little bit in this room. We have the doors and everything off of this cabinet. We just got done cleaning everything down, getting all the dust and debris off of it, and now we are ready to start sanding. And I'm not sure how clear it was when we were doing the baking soda trick. Maybe I was doing it wrong or something like that. Somebody's probably gonna tell me in the comments what I did wrong. We are actually now going to be sanding the cabinets down and staining this whole entire room, staining all of the wood in this room a darker rich tone. So I'm really excited about this. I feel like I've seen so many inspiration photos of this on Pinterest and it just looks so good. I just think the contrast is gonna look really pretty with the off-white, and then we have like the accent color on the bottom, and it's gonna be so pretty. So we did test this out on that same trim piece. We just cleaned it, gave it a really rough sand, cleaned it off again, let it dry, and then we put gel stain over the top. So usually I use the gel stain called Provincial. It's a little bit more of a lighter sort of warm stain. We tried that one out and I think it was a little too light. It was also just very similar to what we already have in here. So we ended up going to the hardware store and we got the color Dark Walnut. And I think this looks so good. It's very rich, but it's not too dark. Again, it just adds really nice contrast and I think it's just gonna look so good in here. Yeah, that is our new plan. Wish us luck. Will it take a long time? Will it take multiple days to do this? Probably. Will it be worth it? If it looks as good in my head as it does in person, hopefully. so we have all the gel stain on. We did run into a little bit of a problem though. So in my defense, the last project that I did with gel stain, it wasn't real wood. So it was like that cabinet, it was like a laminate sort of thing. And I just brushed it on and let it dry. It took a few days to dry, but I was just like, whatever. Like, it gives you more payoff if you just go over it. But if you use gel stain on wood, you're actually supposed to wipe away the excess. It actually says it on the can. This is what it looks like just all on there, which looks really good. But the problem is that it's been over 24 hours and it's still very tacky. So we are definitely supposed to take off the excess. I looked it up online and you can just use like a warm rag with some water or whatever, and you should be able to get off the excess. But I am curious if this is actually going to work in our favor, because this has been sitting on the wood for 24 hours. I don't know if the color is going to be more saturated because it's had a chance to really soak it in. I still need to do the 2 doors and then that little corner over here at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to get this all wet. We're going to start wiping away and see how it goes. Unfortunately, it comes with the territory when you DIY. Sometimes you mess things up, but you gotta fix it. Especially with this bathroom, it needs to be functional, especially while we're renovating it. Having all sticky and tacky isn't exactly ideal. So I'm gonna get this all wet, and I may have to retape up there around the edges. I'm not sure if this is gonna be like a super messy process. We're just gonna see how it goes. So this is the first drawer that we did. It's actually pretty dry, but we will see how it goes. The real test is going to be like these ones, because I did the bottom 2 and also the whole frame just yesterday. Okay, there's nothing on the rag on this one. This one has been drying for like 3 days though. But no matter what happens with these, if we have to apply another layer, we'll keep on adding it until it matches the original of what we want it to look, because I love this color. Oh, it's like dry. That's weird. So like, it's like a little wet. So yeah, that looks like it looks pretty good. It's a little tacky on the top here. We might have to add a little extra, but it actually feels very smooth and like, it feels like it'll dry nicely, which is good. Also, when you use gel stain or any stain, use gloves. Gel stain is really hard to get off of your hands, and I seem to remember that whenever I'm already starting a project. few days. We're still working on the cabinet fronts or the door fronts out in the barn, and we still have to like stain the door and paint some of the trim and stuff. We are going to be actually taking down the chair rail and the baseboards, as well as taking out the doors. That way we can sand them. We're going to stain the doors and then paint the trim. However, while we're finishing up the cabinet fronts, we're going to start talking paint colors so we can also do all of this sort of simultaneously. So if you missed my last video, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on what color we should paint this bottom portion of the room. So this is textured and then this is smooth. We have the chair rail and then the baseboard. So the top is going to be a color called Pearly White by Sherwin-Williams. It's a perfect off-white that has a little bit of warmth in it. I really want to make it light and bright in here, but also not stark white. So we went with something a bit warm toned, had some green undertones as well. But in that video, I swatched some color samples and I asked you guys to vote on which ones you guys liked the best. So these are the two colors that we swatched. This one is Dried Thyme and this one is Rosemary. And for some reason, Dried Thyme sort of showed up a little funny on the wall. I'm not sure if it's because it's already this sort of light green, sort of gray color, or I'm not sure why it reacted so weird. It sort of looks like a turquoise color. I also made like some swatches on the wall. And I'm like, this color isn't that color. Like this one looks so much more neutral. There's a lot less blue in it. And then this one looks pretty true to color. But yeah, this one reacted a little funny. After I filmed that video, I did find another color option that I saw like a TikTok on. I also saw a few different images of what a whole room looks like in that color. And that color was Evergreen Fog. This one is also by Sherwin-Williams, and seeing it sort of next to these two, it's a lot less saturated. It's a little more of a gray color. It's a lot more neutral. I don't know how well you can see that. They look kind of the same on camera, but this one is just a lot more neutral, a lot lighter. I feel like it's actually somewhat close to the color that we already have on here, just a tiny bit darker. And I don't know, I've kind of been sitting on this decision for quite a few days. That's why I painted big swatches on the wall. That way I could sort of see what it's gonna look like. And I definitely don't wanna go with this one after putting it on the wall. This one would be my second choice. But I'm thinking, like, my gut is telling me to go with Evergreen Fog and just see how it goes. It's a little bit risky, but I think we're gonna go for it. So let's go ahead and go to Sherwin-Williams and pick up our paint. Now that our cabinet doors are all finished up, it's time to move on to some other projects that include painting and just finishing off the room to sort of get all of those basic changes done so that we have a blank slate to add more character to. So that means we're going to be working on the doors. We actually removed those from the actual door frames. That way it'd be so much easier to actually stain them. We were going to remove all of the trim, including the baseboard and the chair rail and everything. However, we were a little bit nervous that we were going to actually dent the wall. So basically what we did was we just removed the very bottom piece. So they call this like a quarter round because it's essentially a quarter of a circle. So we removed all of these. We are going to sand these, prime them, and then paint them to match the trim, and then we'll be able to reinstall and fill in all the holes. But because we chose not to take off the trim and everything, we took a few hours this morning to tape off everything, vacuum, clean, get everything nice and ready for primer. And beforehand we did give it a light sand. That way we have the clear finish removed from that wood, so that way we can paint on top of it. And then we ended up using the Zinsser primer. This is just what I found at the hardware store and it's worked really well. So that's what we did this morning. It was a little time consuming, but it is all done and hopefully we'll be able to add paint later. And speaking of paint, we did go to Sherwin-Williams and get our paint and everything. It didn't quite go the way that I thought it was going to, but I'll fill you in on that a little bit later once I show you guys the color. But yeah, so like I said, next on the list are these doors. I went through and I marked with tape which sides don't need stain because we want that golden oak color in the bedroom and also the hallway that it's attached to, and just the stain to be on the inside in the bathroom so that it matches all the cabinetry and everything. And we used dark walnut for all of the cabinetry, about 95% of it. Towards the end we did run out, and I still had this leftover sample of Kona in that same gel stain by Varathane. We really didn't want to go and get another thing of stain, and this is actually very close to 2 coats of the dark walnut. So I'm going to be doing Kona on the 2 doors once we tape them off and get the hardware off and everything else. But for now, I'm gonna move all of the cabinet doors. They're still on the ground over here. And I'm gonna figure out a way that I can prop up the doors. That way I can stain them easily. They'll dry overnight, and then I'll just put a clear coat on with the same thing that I put on the cabinets. So everything will be nice and cohesive. So let's take a second to talk about paint color. Like I said, we did go to Sherwin-Williams and get the color for the bottom portion of this wall, and it didn't go as planned, just long story short. So basically I told you guys I was going to be looking for the color Evergreen Fog, and this is the color swatch. Just a nice light green, has a little bit of depth in it as well. So we ended up going there. We got it in a full gallon in a semi-gloss, because pretty much any room that's gonna have moisture, like a kitchen or a bathroom, you should definitely use a semi-gloss. That way, you know, the paint lasts a lot longer. So we got a whole gallon of that, and then when I got home, I painted a big swatch on the wall. Now you can't see it very well right now because the sun is shining right into this room, but I will insert what that looks like. So basically, once I got it on the wall, it looks a little bit too cool toned. It was sort of pulling it turquoise, and I want this to be a very warm, inviting room. I want it to sort of complement these darker cabinets, as well as our sort of off-white, warmer toned white that's all over the rest of the walls. So basically, I found out that Sherwin-Williams does this thing where you can bring in your new can of paint and they can change the color. That way, if it wasn't what you expected, you can get it closer to what you were trying to go for. So basically, I went online and I found this color. This is called At Ease Soldier, and if you are curious, this is kind of what they look like side by side. You can sort of see the more blue undertones in there. It definitely is more cool toned. The thing about At Ease Soldier, the reason why I went with it, is because it actually closely resembles the line work that's going to be in the wallpaper that we're going to be putting on this wall. So I thought it'd be a really good mix. Another thing that I did do was I took a picture of the wood tone of our cabinets. I brought a little sample of the wallpaper, and I just tried to bring in all of the different elements and sort of hold them next to each other, and I just knew that they were going to be a good match. So basically, because we started with a more cool toned color, we started with a completely different color. They weren't able to get it perfectly with Addie Soldier. This is what we started with. So we have the evergreen fog, and this is what we were trying to go for, and this is what we ended up with. So it looks very similar to Addie Soldier, just a tiny bit darker, which I think is going to be really good in this space because we have the dark cabinets. I feel like we could definitely use just a little bit more depth. So yeah, that was my whole painting journey. I always have such a time picking out paint colors. Now that we actually have a color that looks really good in all the different sunlights, we've been living with it for a few days, I'm really excited to actually get it up on the wall. So I'm going to start painting this section of the wall. It'll probably be a little bit tricky with this more textured look, but we will make it work, and then we'll just use a roller to fill out the middle. Okay, so today is the final day of episode 1. We have a lot of this room painted, and we just need to finish up doing all the white on the walls. We're going to be doing it in Pearly White by Sherwin-Williams to give it a nice bright feel. It's going to match all of the trim work and everything like that, and it's just going to look very cohesive, warm, inviting, and really just finish off all of the cosmetic things we need to do for this room. This bathroom already looks so different from when we first started it. We refinished the cabinets in this really rich color. We went through and we painted all of the trim, gave this whole entire room a refresh with paint. We even added some contrast by doing the white trim around the dark wood doors. Everything just looks so good in here. We got so much accomplished in this bathroom and it's really starting to come to life. And it's making me very excited for episode 3, which you guys will be seeing in a couple of weeks here, where we'll be putting up wallpaper, some new mirrors, decorating, and also adding hardware on to our doors. But as for now, we are in a good spot. I have a few touch-ups and things to do with paint and little things like that, but for the most part, all of the hard things are done. We'll even be putting a gallery wall up in here with some old vintage frames. It's gonna be so good. So make sure that you're subscribed for that video coming in a couple weeks. I hope you guys enjoyed this second episode of my bathroom makeover, and I'm just so excited for what else is to come. So thank you so much for spending some time with me on my channel today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, you guys.